well, let's talk about that for a second, like where you put your time. Like for example, like you're putting, I mean, essentially this the woman with the equestrian daughter is putting their time into a positive experience for the child. Let's talk about some of these vices that are negative experiences, like drugs and alcohol. You know, if you're putting your time into drugs and alcohol, the chances of you getting supervised visitation or some kind of restriction on you are exorbitantly high. Um, just courts don't want to mess around with, you know, they want to do what's best for a child, and they're not going to put the child in a risky situation if they can avoid it. That's all there is
What
to it.
Yeah, without a doubt. And not only that, Brian, but a lot of people don't even realize what that vice equates to, because, a legal vice and a real world vice are probably a little different. And what I mean by that is you having a glass of wine or two every night of the week for a substantial period of time is potentially a pretty big vice in family law. But in the real world, I mean, you're just part of like the 20 crowd. It's like,
Right.
hey, this is what we do. But when you talk about that, so 4 glasses of wine per bottle, you have an expensive wine taste because you only like those really great, what is it, Opus X or Deus X or whatever ones you like to drink, Brian.
Well, oh yeah, we only go private label vineyards here,
There
Sam.
you go. There you go. So, you know what I'm saying? So like all of a sudden, these are things that can be used against you, because when you talk about, you have young kids and you're like, hey, she drinks every night. And you don't drink. You're the health nut, right? You do a little working out, you pay attention to the kids, you bathe them while mom's having her glass of wine by the fire. Okay, is there anything necessarily wrong with that? Probably not. But can it be used against you?
It's the
Absolutely.
way stuff spins.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a better example like this. So, smoking, it's not illegal. It's not illegal. But guys, hey, you know what? You're smoking in an enclosed car with your kids and they're small, and the other parent wants to say, hey, that's a health hazard. Yeah, it is. It is. And they'll get a doctor up there to say, hey, this is horrible. And it's an addiction, man. It's like something that's really hard to kick, right? So if you're sitting there saying like, hey, I smoked when they married me. They knew this was a whole issue. And now all of a sudden that we're getting divorced, I can't smoke around the kids. They want that restriction because of their health. But
Or I can't
you know what I'm
drink
saying?
around the kids. We met at a
Yeah.
bar, but I can't drink around the kids anymore. You
Yeah.
know,
First time I met her, she was completely sloshed. And now all of a sudden, hey, I can't have a beer when the kids are around. These are the kinds of things that absolutely can become, afflictions that will hurt you and hurt
and
your chances in court.
it's not necessarily what's true. It's how things are spun. So like
Yeah.
you're talking about, maybe you have one glass of wine every night, but a good lawyer can craft that into, into an alcohol addiction.
Oh, yeah.
You could be having it for heart health reasons. I mean, whatever. But I know you only drink wine for the antioxidants for your heart and everything,
Dude,
Sam. So
bourbon is just for the sugar, man. I just need a little sugar spike every once in a while. But no, I mean, a great example of this would, to kind of pass along would be like, obviously the internet, it's got this, great facets of information. It also has a very dark side, right? A very deep underbelly. Porn is one of those. And, porn is not illegal. Well, let me say, not all porn is illegal. There's a lot of
right.
it that is, but, a lot of it is absolutely legal. And it could have even been a part of your relationship. But I'm going to tell you right now that there are certain things that just get a court's goat, that get them to instantly raise their eyebrows and look at you and be like, I wish you wouldn't have done that. Drinking, using drugs, heavy porn addictions. These are things that you could say like, hey, I only look at porn when I'm by myself or when I'm with my wife on our computer in our bedroom, kids are never around. But that's fine when you're together. It's when you're not together. And the court has to contemplate, hey, who am I going to trust in this situation? The type of behavior that you have, what kind of porn? Instantly, they want subpoenas to look at, the digital imprint of your computer, and they're pulling hard drives and they're mapping out where the websites that you go to based off history. And all of a sudden you're like, I looked at something, but I didn't even click on it. Like it was just something that came up in the feed. You got problems. You got massive problems. Or you're talking about drugs. So you're like, hey, I have to take a lot of prescription drugs. Well, do you have an emotional issue? I take Xanax because I'm in this high stress environment constantly. I just need to kind of wind down. It's prescribed to me. But as a good lawyer, I sit down there and say, well, why do you need it? Are you saying you can't control your emotions? Are you saying that you're in such a position that, potentially if you weren't taking this medication, you would be a threat or a harm to somebody, even yourself? How do you want to play that to extremes? And you're like, absolutely not. Well, then why take it? Why get it?
Exactly.
If it's not a concern, why did the doctor give it to you? And instantly you're backpedaling on something that was really innocuous in your mind. But, these are the kinds of things that you have to really be prepared for if you're going to get into a mess in court.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think things are spun a certain way. And, this is going to be a touchy subject for some people, but I've had one where there was, I don't want to call it a religious vice, but there was one half of the married couple was absolutely adamant about church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Tuesday evening, Wednesday night, Thursday Bible study, hanging around with different church members all the time, which led into something, it was a little bit sketchy. We never confirmed whether or not it was an actual affair, but it was definitely something that was sketchy. Mission trips, money spent on mission trips, just an overabundance of church all the time. And so, he's like, wait a minute, you're taking complete time away. We're not a husband and wife anymore because you're always at church. You're always at a Bible study. You're always at something. Well, what are you trying to do? Take away my relationship with God? Well, no, but it's that breakdown in communication. It's not, everybody would say that, going to a place where that's morally going to keep you on the right track and, it teaches you right from wrong is a good thing. But it's one of those things where it's an overabundance of something and it's overdoing it to the point of obsession where it leads into a downfall of a marriage.
Oh, brother, I mean, along that same lines, I did a case where a high profile client came in and he was part of a very well-known church that the other side felt was a cult. And so it wasn't even that he went that often. He went like once a week, but he was very attached to this church and wanted his kids to be a part of it. And they spent the majority of their case talking about the cult aspects of this particular church and his religion, his chosen religion, and used it as a mechanism against him. And this was a very conservative court, so the judge really took into account like these types of behaviors that he didn't feel were appropriate, whether it was, it wasn't this, but like it's Santeria, right? Or it's something that's, a doomsday right. church that says, hey, the end is coming, in July of 2021. And all of a sudden you're the other parent and you're like, I'm absolutely going to use that against you. Well, the Constitution says you have this right to believe what you want, the religion that you want. But that doesn't mean you have the right to have alcohol because you're over the age of 21. You have the right to go to a gym anytime you want to stay healthy. But that doesn't mean it won't be used against you. And I really feel like it's not always excess. So you have to really kind of help clients or help people, our listeners, understand is that it can be anything spun the wrong way or the right way, if it's your perspective that you want the court to hear, can absolutely be something that's used very, very powerfully against you.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the Top Texas Lawyers podcast. If you would like a consultation with either Bryan or Sam, please call 1-888-981-7509 or visit us on the web at astxlegal.com. Once again, that's astxlegal.com. Thank you very much.